Atomic Heart came out just the other day, and I've gotta say the reviews I've been seeing are interesting. Many enjoy the game, many hate it, others are relatively in between. I want to preface this by saying that for a newer studio like Mundfish, this being their first major AAA title, it's quite good in that aspect. Making video games is not a simple feat, and it's never been easy. As someone who's done programming plenty of times, ask anybody and they will agree with you. Now look, with that out of the way, Atomic Heart was not my favorite game, and to be fully transparent, I didn't really like it much. With that being said though, I would not outright tell you to not try for yourself. I truly think this is one of those games that can be loved by some and hated by others very easily, hence the mixed reviews you've probably seen already. But let's just get into the full review now. Atomic Heart is an FPS action game that stars a Special Forces member who lives in the USSR. The story takes place in an alternate history setting where the USSR won World War II and became the most advanced country, delving deep into technological advancement via robots and more. First, this is where I want to talk about one of my favorite things in Atomic Heart, the world building. The setting looks well designed and quite nice, honestly. It's vibrant, colorful, and full of things to see. I can tell the influence on Atomic Heart, and I can see that the devs really understood how to capture the magic in their setting. They really got down the grandiose nature of the Soviets. The sci-fi elements were unique as well, and as a sci-fi author myself, I really liked seeing the implementation of the different concepts in the world of Atomic Heart. I particularly thought the idea of never needing to waste time learning concepts and just needing to absorb basically a little pill of sorts was very interesting. The concept of the polymer is basically the thing that drove most of this technological advancement, so it's pretty interesting, and if you want to learn more about the backstory of it, you can read that on Atomic Heart's website. In terms of the opening, it was very nice to look at, but it just felt like it took too long. I was honestly already bored and wondering when we'd get some gameplay. Typically, you want to start your game out with some sort of hook, but the beginning just felt dreadful to have to sit through, beautiful as it was. It just unfortunately felt like one massive cutscene. I did appreciate the vibrance of colors and the relatively nice graphics. I did have an issue sometimes where the graphics faltered at some points and at other points was a bit choppy, though this seemed to get better as I progressed in the game. I held out hope I would enjoy the gameplay and enjoy the narrative, but unfortunately I didn't really enjoy either of those two things. Nor did I enjoy the pacing. It felt too slow at some points, and at other points it felt simply far too rushed. One of the first things that I noticed in Atomic Heart is the dialogue. I don't know how else to put this, but the dialogue is really bad. It felt like watching a Marvel movie combined with Forspoken. The main character, P3, is constantly rude and swearing like a 7th grader that just learned what the F word sounds like. He also frequently disrespects his glove named Charles, which is basically just sort of a robot companion, and most of the time it's really unprompted rudeness. I mentally compared Atomic Heart's dialogue to a game like Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, which also kind of had this over-the-top action hero movie dialogue. But in Atomic Heart, the dialogue felt out of place. It was unprompted and really wasn't good. On the other hand, in Blood Dragon it made sense because, well, that was a parody of these sorts of movies. Meanwhile, Atomic Heart was not setting itself up to be a parody, at least that's what I got when I was playing the game. I recommend wholeheartedly changing the vocal language to Russian and playing the game with subtitles. It is so much more bearable when you can't really understand what's being said half the time. If you're Russian, or you speak Russian, sorry, I don't think it's going to be that much better for you. The writing is also just as bad as the dialogue. The story was very strangely paced. For example, when all the robots just turned evil and started attacking, it was just sudden and it felt off. The story was also predictable and just downright boring at times. I did not once find myself really caring about anything that was happening. From the beginning, it was pretty clear what the story was going to be like. I'm not saying that every video game needs to have this original story or super original idea behind it, but I'd expect a bit more of a interesting execution for the story than what we got in Atomic Heart. Plus, Atomic Heart gets into this really bad habit from the onset of dumping so much exposition on you that's just really bad. I find that video games often will leave things for you to read around the world that explain different aspects of it. You may get a cutscene here and there about the history. Something is involved in the process so that characters aren't just pointing things out and explaining stuff as though it were an educational cartoon. Unfortunately, Atomic Heart just liked to exposition dump at any point in the game, and it led to too much dialogue in my opinion. On top of this, P3 doesn't really seem to have much in terms of emotional reactions. It feels like he isn't really bothered, scared, or anything about what's happening. He's just mildly inconvenienced. I don't know about you, but nothing in his character screams clinical psychopath, so I'd expect some level of human emotional reaction that's realistic from him. He just constantly seems bothered by stuff. That's it, his most powerful emotional response is being bothered. Also, we have to talk about the most annoying dialogue section for me, the upgrade fridge named Nora. I'm sorry, I didn't laugh. Maybe it's just not my sense of humor, but it felt really bizarre and unnecessarily placed. This might be a bit of a nitpick on my end, but it really ticked me off after the first few times of interacting with this upgrade fridge. I know plenty of people found it really funny, other people didn't. I fall in the latter category, it just irked me after some time. Now here's the thing, I don't expect every video game I play to be like a massive, epic story with powerful commentary and all that, but I expect a video game that has a strong emphasis on story to work a bit harder on said story. The story wasn't exactly terrible, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it's so bad like the worst video game I've ever played, burn it in fire, it's trash, it's garbage. No, I'm not saying that, but anything good it had felt really marred down by the cringe-inducing dialogue and the bizarre, off-put pacing. For example, one of my favorite characters in the game is Babushka Zina. She was really cool, super strong, she was pretty funny, you know, as an addition to the story. However, I felt like I was lacking that connection with almost any other character. Why did any of them matter? What stakes were involved? Nothing in the beginning helped to establish why the players should actually care about what happens to P3, Sechnov, and the others. Alright, now enough of story, let's move on to gameplay in Atomic Heart. Most of the core gameplay elements revolve around melee and gunplay. It's totally expected from a first-person shooter. Now, the gunplay isn't terrible, but good luck being able to do much of it, especially in the pretty much majority of the opening sequences of the game. You barely get any bullets and you have to craft most of them in the creepy robot fridge. Thankfully, the robot fridge is normal unless you need something specific that the game prompts you to get. I really didn't like feeling so restricted to mostly melee combat, because in my eyes the melee was average at best. It took simply too many hits to take down the most basic enemy types, at least like 5. It made playing the game on any difficulty other than easy artificially dragging. I heard some people say to play the game on the easiest setting, and I usually like playing games at a harder difficulty, but Atomic Heart wasn't really fun at the harder difficulties. I didn't like how the enemies felt like actual sponges in Atomic Heart. To me, it felt like just it was trying to artificially inflate the length of the gameplay by inflating the enemy difficulties. And I'm referring to the basic enemies, like the stuff that should not take that long to take down. Still, the gunplay for what it is was fine. I personally liked it. The shotgun was effective and fun to use. I think the strongest part of the gunplay was just how smooth it felt. It wasn't clunky or janky at all. The second part of the core gameplay is the glove you wear and the usage of that glove. So this could be used in tandem with the gunplay and the melee combat. You equip the glove with different powers like telekinesis. You can even shoot ice to freeze your enemies. When you do that, you can then actually use the axe and do kind of a heavy swing and it will take them out almost instantly. I think the powers that you get did add a lot to the gameplay and it made it much easier at times. Telekinesis in my eyes was the most effective power to use. It's like a free way to get through massive hordes of enemies. You could just lift them up, smash them right into the ground, which is super easy. It makes going through waves much faster than with just, the freezing power or shooting polymer from your hand, things like that. One of the biggest issues I had with the gameplay is the fact that there is no ability to sprint and there is no FOV slider. Not being able to sprint at all makes the game feel a lot slower for no reason, and not having an FOV slider can hinder your range of movement and your field of vision, which is not very fun. And in regards to the sprint feature, I was honestly shocked that Atomic Heart didn't have sprinting in it, because even games from the 90s like Doom have the ability to sprint, so how can a AAA game in 2023 not have that feature? The level design also felt frequently very unbalanced. Many missions will toss mass numbers of enemies at you at once, but they're all the same enemy over and over again. Other missions just seem to drag on forever for no reason. Most of the game is spent telling you to fetch something, while P3 complains about needing to fetch stuff, as if the game is somehow self-aware of this point. I really don't like it when games, movies, and books do that. It's just not my favorite. After you exit the laboratory, for example, you have to deal with essentially immortal robots, making collecting necessary resources and blueprints irritating and boring. There were also lots of disappointments throughout Atomic Heart and the potential for boss battles. There were instances in which it felt like a strong possibility that we would see or get to experience a boss fight, only for the boss fight to cease to exist for the sake of a cutscene. Look, I can see that Mundfish has a lot of passion for this project, and I can tell they cared a lot about this game. Seeing as it is their first AAA title, I can only expect that they'll go up from here. I say this because as much as some things annoy me about Atomic Heart, credit given where credit's due, it's a solid video game. It works and had virtually no issues running on my Series X. That's not something I can say for a lot of other AAA releases from the past few years. Plus, I can see what Atomic Heart was trying to accomplish. I think they probably ran into something called scope creep. Essentially, you start expanding the scope of your project so much, by the end you're nearing a deadline, you've got too many unfinished bits and pieces, you're scrambling to finish everything, but it's not going to be exactly as how you envisioned it. And I think this is what happened here. From what I played through, I can tell Atomic Heart had a lot of ideas and things Mundfish wanted to jam pack into the game, but I don't think they simply had enough time nor enough resources to do so. At the end of the day, would I recommend Atomic Heart in lieu of my complaints? Honestly, as much as I give the devs credit for their work, personally, I did not enjoy Atomic Heart as much as I was hoping to. However, I do not think that it's not worth a playthrough. I would say if you think this game interests you, then go for it, play it, try it for yourself. If you don't think that this game is something you'd enjoy, then just skip it. It's not the most amazing game out there, but it's on Game Pass, so if you have that, play it, you're not paying extra for it. Or if you really want to play Atomic Heart, wait for a sale if you don't have Game Pass. Either way, thanks for tuning into DZSH Gaming. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like and comment below what your thoughts are on Atomic Heart. Subscribe with notifications set to all so you never miss out on a single upload. Check out our website for gaming news, entertainment, and more. The link is in the description below alongside all of our other important links.